Are your kids already playing video games that you don't think are appropriate? How are you going to deal with that? Hey, I've got Peter with us today, and Peter's a digital native. Unlike me, I'm a digital immigrant. We're going to get into all that, so stick with us. Peter, what do you have to share with us? What do we do if our kids are playing games that we don't think are appropriate? How do we deal with all this?
Well, it's a long answer to such a short question, and we'll get into that with our presentation. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
All right, so Peter's sharing his screen. I'm here with Holston and Garner IT. My name's Allison Meredith, and I've got Abby Bullen on the line. You want to say hello, Abby? Putting her on the spot. I know she's on mute.
You're good. Hey, guys.
Yeah, so Abby's watching the Facebook live stream as well as the Zoom webinar chat. So if you have any questions, throw them straight into there. She'll be watching both, and we'll take questions at the end. So yeah, that's the question, Peter. How do we decide what games our kids can play? Let's get right into it. What do you have to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So really before we can ask the question, what do I do if my kids are playing games that I don't think are appropriate? We really have to figure out as a parent what games are appropriate for our kids. So we have kind of three big ideas on how to help you as a parent figure out what games are appropriate or what games your kids should be playing. We're going to talk about ratings, we're going to talk about reviews, and then we're going to do a little bit of a discussion on how to set your boundaries or how to figure out what you're comfortable letting your kids play. So first of all, the ESRB, or the Entertainment Systems Rating Board, is the company that makes the stamps that go on the games. And these are kind of the 5 stamps that you'll see if you're going to purchase a game. And they're all different categories. So I'll talk briefly about those categories. The first one is for everyone. These are games that are pretty much for everyone, might have some minimal cartoon violence, hardly any language. Pretty much anybody can play these games. Some examples are Animal Crossing, Rocket League, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. These are games that anyone could play of almost any age. The everyone 10 and up category is games that are rated for kids 10 and up. They might have a little bit more violence, a little bit milder language, and potentially some suggestive themes. Some
So Peter, is
examples.
this kind of like movies are rated PG or PG-13? Is that kind of what the ESRB is doing here? I mean, they're just kind of
It's
giving us
kind
broad
of,
categories. Okay.
yeah, it's kind of like how movies are rated PG or PG-13. It's not the same rating system, so
Right, and you're going to
you
get into that,
can't
right?
get
So it
confused a
is
little bit.
very
Yeah,
different. It's not like PG-13R. I mean, it's a very
right.
anyway, we'll get into that. But so for an example, yeah, I've seen my kids playing Minecraft. That's a great game. So that's a 10 plus. I'm kind of surprised. I would think it would be okay for younger as well. But you go ahead. What else do you have to
Yeah,
share?
absolutely. So these games are rated, and games are generally rated on 3 different categories. The first one is violence, the second one is sexual content, and then the third one is language. So you'll kind of see those 3 primary categories, and as we go up, those kind of boundaries as to what's appropriate, those are a little bit higher for each category. So if a game is rated teen, that's generally for kids who are 13 or up. It may contain some violence, some suggestive themes, which would be kind of the sexual content there. And then it may also contain some crude humor, maybe a little bit of simulated gambling or some strong language. Some examples of this would be Fortnite, League of Legends, Star Wars, Jedi Fallen Order. These are some typical games that would be rated T for teen. The last category I'm going to talk about is the mature 17 plus. These are games that are much higher with violence, they have more gore, they have more sexual content, and they have much stronger language.
And
Um,
I'm glad you mentioned this is the last category. There is one category above this, right? Is it called the adult category?
yes, there is a
Which
category above this called adult only, and those are,
basically no one should ever play those.
yeah,
Am I
you really
fair? I
shouldn't.
mean, it's just
Yeah,
pornography or something. I mean, just
pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah. Don't
Yep.
we're not even going to talk about those categories. Say there is, yeah. So let's just get into. I'm glad that you're going to land here, Peter, because I know a lot of parents have questions about. Halo, for example, is it called Halo or Halo Reach? Or I can't keep up with it all, but there's a lot of variance, isn't there, in the games that are rated mature?
Absolutely, yeah. So there are a lot of different variances in each category. Probably the most drastic is the one that's rated mature 17 plus, because if you ding even any one of those for kind of points, it will be rated mature 17 plus. And we'll look at some examples. Here are some examples of mature 17 plus games. You have Halo Reach, Doom, or Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know a little about all three of those, and I don't think they belong in the same category. Don't let your kids play Grand Theft 5 is what I'm thinking. And there's quite a variance there. So that's the question. How do I decide what's right for my kids?
So how do you decide what's right for your kid? And it is different for every kid, and it depends on your relationship between you and your parent. So the biggest piece of advice I can have for you is to be involved, because if you aren't, your kids will make the decisions for themselves. They'll be the ones who are exposing themselves to these things. So read reviews, watch gameplay, connect with your kids, play the game yourself. I know that might sound a little crazy to you, but I'm sure that if you go to your kid and you're like, hey, can you show me how to play this game that you really like? And you spend 30 minutes or an hour doing that, your kid would probably have a hilarious time watching you try to figure out that game. And it is a great way to connect with your kids. And then you also get to experience what they like doing. So it might not be the most fun for you, but it's a good way to connect and just be involved with your kids playing games. And that's the biggest piece of advice I can get, is just be involved in the decisions and don't let them make them on their own.
Right. And I love that your emphasis is a key theme of this whole webinar series is there is no easy button. Parents, you just have to have a relationship with your kid. And to your point, Peter, it's different for every kid, but also there are some family definitions. I mean, certainly as a mom, you have, as a dad, you're the parent, you have the ability to say, as a family, this is okay, this is not okay. But I think you're not denying that. You're just emphasizing also every kid is different, just different personality, different preferences. So tell me a little more. What does it mean, read reviews? I mean, I don't even know where to look. There's like all these websites of people. Perfect. Okay, so tell me more.
Yeah, so it's really important to look at reviews, because like we said, every game is different, and the little stamps that they put really do not represent what the game is actually about. So I'm going to show some examples of some of the variants in the categories. So this is the review on the ESRB website for Halo Reach, and I've kind of highlighted the key points of contention that you as a parent might have about your kid playing this game. It's a pretty realistic looking game. You use weapons with realistic sounds and realistic textures to fight aliens. That's kind of the premise of the game. And this is rated mature 17 plus. If you compare that to another game that's rated mature 17 plus, like Grand Theft Auto, it is a much different story. I will just pause here for a second and let you guys look at some of those highlighted things.
Let's put on our glasses, moms and dads,
to see.
Let's see.
There is a big difference here.
Players are directed to torture other characters, basically. Is that what it's saying? Using various instruments to extract information from characters? Oh my goodness. Various acts from a close-up perspective. Yeah, this is completely different. With a prostitute, no less.
So
okay, so how is this even the same category as what we just looked at with Halo? Was it Halo Reach or what was that?
Yeah, it was Halo Reach. The reason why these are probably rated the same category, like I said, if you ding any one of those categories, it will.
The categories being violence, language,
sexual content, and then also kind of there's blood and gore. Mature games can be rated for blood and gore. But if you ding one of those four things, if your game reaches the mature rating on one of those any of the four,
it's going to be rated
mature.
17. Okay.
But so the Grand Theft Auto here is rated mature for all four categories. Halo is only rated for the violence.
And not even for the blood and gore. You know, I've noticed, because I have some sons who play Halo, it to me is kind of like a PG-13 movie. It is violent, but it's like watching an Avengers movie. I mean, for me, it doesn't seem over the top. However, what I just read seems over the top. So go ahead, Peter. Oh, good.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
So these are my little tips to try and help you all find an appropriate game. Read reviews. There are three big websites. The ESRB is probably the most general, but it is the official company that rates games. So they are kind of they have the official stamp. So they're a good place to go. The Common Sense Media is probably the most strict. They will highlight the worst parts, and they will give you, they have their review, then they also have reviews that other parents have given, and then they also have reviews that kids have given. I
Oh,
wouldn't
that's very
recommend
helpful.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't recommend really paying attention to the kid reviews
Well,
because
yeah.
but it's
But they're there.
still
That's interesting. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. I think it is a great. They really highlight
The
the
worst
worst
parts.
parts, and then the source for parents probably has the best description of the game itself, rather than highlighting the worst parts or just kind of
So
making
when you say the
information.
game itself, do you mean the goal of the game or kind of what the player is thinking? Or when you say the game itself,
Yeah,
tell me more what you mean by that.
how you play, the way the characters interact
Okay.
with the game elements, what the goals are, those kinds of things. Those are present in the other two websites, but that is one of the focuses of the source for parents is they focus on not only what's might be bad, but also what is the game trying to do? What's the intent of the
Okay.
game? Um, Another tip: watch gameplay videos on your own, and then figure out what your line is. Like I said, there are those different categories. There's language, sexual content, and then violence. So figure out what is your line in all three of those categories, because it's not, you can't just pick a rating and say if the game is rated this, my kids are never going to play that game, right?
Right.
You
Okay. It's
you
just too
can't really speak
complicated.
in absolutes because it's too complicated. A good kind of general rule of thumb is to not let your kids play any games that are 2 brackets above their age. That's kind of like a good general rule. So if your kid is 10 and you have a great relationship and they're pretty mature, maybe they could play a teen rated game that has maybe a little more violence than what you might think a 10-year-old would be
Well, what the
playing. But
ESRB thinks a
right,
10-year-old.
right.
So, but
Um,
depending, like to your point, if you have a great relationship with your kid, you're communicating and he's 10, then maybe consider letting him play some of the games rated 13 plus.
Right. And
And
if
if he's
if that's what
13,
he
yeah,
wants to
yeah,
do,
if
and
he wants,
he
if he
seems very
maybe,
responsible,
yeah.
and you have a great relationship with him over video games, and you know what's going on, um, and you understand what the game is. That's another key thing. But maybe the games like Halo and Doom Eternal, don't that's 2 categories above their age. I'm not going to speak in absolutes, but that's kind of a general rule of thumb. If they're in the age bracket, you don't quite have to dig as deep to really figure out, is this game okay for my kid, right? So if your kid is 13 and they want to play Minecraft, right? You don't really need to spend hours looking to see if Minecraft's okay. It's a game that's rated for 10-year-olds. It's
Right,
probably
right.
going to be
Minecraft's
fine.
probably okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of my general rule of thumb as to what you really need to focus your energy on to figuring out which games are for your kids. Does
That's
that?
good. And let me pause here and mention that we're not talking about games on these devices. We're not talking about smartphone apps. They are actually rated differently. And we're talking about video games, which is a genre that's typically played on a larger screen, right, Peter? Although I guess there are some apps for more smaller mobile devices. But, and I mentioned that just because I know from my research that new apps, the app developers can just say this is good for ages 6+ or whatever, and it might not be that way at all, but they
Right.
they don't have as much of a system as, whereas if there's a new version of Halo or Civ 5 or Minecraft, whatever, they have to go through the ESRB to even go to market. Is that right, Peter? I'm not sure about that.
Yes. If they
Actually,
don't, then it will say not rated,
then it'll say not rated.
or it
So
will
then
say
that's another flag, right?
rating pending or something like that.
Right.
Because it could be like the game hasn't even come out yet, so that it's just the rating is pending.
Right. Versus there's a famous story of an app called Banana Plug, which Abby can link to the white paper that I wrote last year. But in the white paper I wrote last year was telling the story of an app that existed to sell marijuana and other illegal drugs. That was the purpose of the app. It was called
Right.
Banana Plug, but it was listed as ages 4+, so that when parents saw it on their phone, they would say, "Oh, this must be fine." It wasn't fine. But we're not talking about that. We are talking about this. So Peter, when we're talking about this being games rated by the ESRB for the video, for the computer console, whatever, how do I know what kind of gameplay to watch? You're like your second point there, watch gameplay video. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So the best way to watch gameplay is to go on YouTube and you search. You put in the name of the game that you want to figure out about. Then you, after the name, full walkthrough, no commentary. So an example would be Halo Reach, full walkthrough, no commentary. And what that will do is that will pull an hour or, like 8-hour or 10-hour long video is probably going to be your top result.
But we don't have to watch all 10
of
hours.
the
Okay.
entire
Okay.
entire gameplay, right?
Okay.
You don't have to watch the whole thing. In fact, you probably shouldn't watch the whole thing. You don't
No,
have
we
enough
don't have time for that. Right.
But the reason why I recommend this method is because this is the best way to watch the game as the game. You're just watching the game. The no commentary, you don't have anybody telling you. You just click on that 8-hour video or whatever, spend 15 minutes clicking around, watch 3 minutes here, skip, watch a few minutes here, watch a few minutes there.
You watch on
different
times 2 speed even, right?
Right.
So,
In different sections in the video, so you get an understanding for what the game is. And the reason why I recommend this is because you cannot really tell what a game is like just from the review, from the written review. You can't really tell. It's really hard. And you're not going to watch these gameplay videos to try and figure out what are the bad things in this video game. That's not why you watch the gameplay.
that's why you read the ESRB
You read the
paragraph
reviews
to
and you
read
yes.
what's bad about it.
Or the Common Sense or the Source for Parent.
Or
You
the
read
other,
those,
right.
and they will tell you these are the bad parts in the game. That this is what is bad. But you watch the gameplay to understand really what the game looks like, what it feels like to play, right? So that way you can have an understanding of more as what the game is about. And you might find that your opinions will change. Like if you just read the review, maybe you have one opinion, but if you actually watch the game and see the stuff that you were reading in effect, your opinion might be a little bit different than if you just read
right.
the review. So that's
a great way to be more informed. Well, this leads up to the question I started with, which is what if I discover my kid is playing a game that I'm not comfortable with? So yeah, and let me just ask, do you have any quick thoughts on that? We're coming up to 12:15. We'd love for you to hang on. We will take questions until 12:30, but also we'll be addressing your questions in just a minute if you can stick with us. But Peter, give us your quick answer to that. I mean,
yeah, this is probably the hardest, and this is where most of you will probably find yourselves. The good news is now you are aware and you're paying attention, and that's the first step. That's the big step.
That is the first step.
That is almost the most important thing, is that you are now thinking about it.
Right.
And I will
let me throw in, I've said this before, guys, but it bears repeating. Do not just yank the plug and stomp your feet and walk away. That kills the relationship between you and your kid.
Absolutely.
So what Peter just said is key. Just think in your head, okay, actually this was true yesterday. Now I know, now I'm alarmed, now I'm upset, now I'm angry, whatever. But actually all this was true yesterday. I just didn't know. So
Absolutely.
Doing nothing today does not dig the hole any deeper. So I would advise you, if you don't know what to do, step A is do nothing while you think about it. Not do nothing ever, but just pause. Yep. Okay, because now you know. And then so then what, Peter?
So what I would recommend, the thing is, if your kid is already playing these games, they have already been exposed to everything the game has, pretty much. That's kind of the sad or unfortunate reality. You can't really unsee things.
Yeah.
That's already the case. So and if you, like Allison said, if you just pull the plug, that kills the relationship. The kid does not feel like you really understand them. They'll get really upset. All their friends play this game, blah, blah, blah.
They just shoot up a wall emotionally.
Right? You lose any form of relationship that you had with your kid over your video games, and it makes it extremely hard to really be a part of that area in their life if you do things like that. So the question then becomes, how do we do this? How do we interact with our kids if they're doing stuff that we don't like? And so a few years ago, my mom found some inappropriate memes that one of my friends sent me.
Yeah.
Yes. So she sat me down, and this is what she said to me, and I think it was really helpful. And I think it will be really helpful for you too, because a lot of times we as kids, maybe we just don't think about it. And that's what I did. I was just like, memes, whatever. I just kind of skipped over it. It's not something that I thought about. And your kids might be doing that too with video games as well. They might think, well, that's, whatever. Just kind of skip over it, and they don't really think too much about it. So you can look at that.
No, I'm glad that you decided to share this, Peter, and I'm glad to know that you thought it was helpful. Because yeah, I was really shocked when I discovered some junk on my kid's phone that was not appropriate, and then when I realized they didn't see what it was a big deal. So translating this into a video game, and again, the point of this, take the time to just pause if you're watching the recording and just kind of look at this. This is a very powerful conversation to literally sit next to your kid, show him, whether it's a computer screen or a smartphone or whatever it is, show him the images that he has already seen. To Peter's point, he's already seen it. When I found this stuff years ago on Peter's device, he wasn't going to unsee it, right?
Right.
So showing it to him again doesn't make it any worse, but just showing it to him and pausing and saying, look at this.
Right.
Tell me why this is not okay. Like making him think about it. So how does this apply to video games if they're already knee deep in Grand Theft Auto of all terrible things? Like, can you translate? And I don't know if you have another slide or if you want to just stop.
Yeah, I do.
Here and, perfect. Okay.
I would recommend a very similar approach to a video game. And I've kind of drafted up a little bit of an example. So let's say your kid's playing Grand Theft Auto 5. Like we said in that review, it is not a good game. I would not recommend anyone to play it.
Yeah, anyone.
But what I would do, regardless of the game they're playing, just go and sit down and, have a conversation with your kid about letting you watch them play, or just sit down and watch them play. Now, here is something. As soon as you watch them play, they will be on their best behavior.
Oh, yeah.
So that you might not see everything.
Yeah.
But you will still see them play, and that's can be very helpful. So these are some questions. If I was a parent, I don't have any kids, but if I was a parent and I was sitting down with my kid watching them play Grand Theft Auto 5, these are some of the questions that I've kind of drafted up that might come up from me watching them play gameplay. And the goal is not to get mad. You just, for the first few minutes, even just sit and watch quietly and not say anything, no matter what. Like if you see something bad, just watch. I mean, your kid's already seeing all this. And if you need to scream,
you just get up and scream in the closet and come sit down again and be quiet.
So here are some example questions that are fairly tame. If your kid is on their best behavior, they'll probably see these kinds of things happen while they're playing Grand Theft Auto 5.
Wow.
And I would always start by asking, what do you like about this game? Because I don't want to say you want to trap your kids, but your kids are lawyers, and they can talk themselves out of a lot of situations. So first, I like to start by asking what they like about this game, because maybe they say it's fun. I like this game because it's fun. And then you say, oh, do you think it's fun to steal cars from people?
Well, but then what if he says yes? Then
if he says yes to that, then you can say, well, do you think I would steal cars for fun? Do you think your dad would steal cars for fun? Right? Do you like shooting the police officers?
And then what if he says it's just pretend?
It's just pretend, right? And that will be their excuse. Do you think it's a good idea to pretend to do these things? Right? That is probably one of the more powerful questions. And is kind of your buildup, because they will say, oh, I like doing this. Like, oh, well, is that something that I would do? Even just pretending.
Right.
Do you think it's a good idea to pretend to run over people on the sidewalk?
Oh gosh, no, I don't.
No. But then
if you think about kids, I mean, kids going pew pew pew, that's as old as dirt. I mean, they've been doing it with sticks in the backyard. Now they're doing it on video games, and maybe it's a separate conversation of how that's alike or different. But the point is, ideally, when our kids are, whether they're playing with sticks or video games, it's the good guys shooting the bad guys, right? We want our kids to pretend to be the good guys, not to pretend to be the car thieves, I guess.
Yes.
Peter, is that how you would? Yeah.
So one of the things that might happen when you sit down and watch your kid, Grand Theft Auto is kind of an extreme, but if you sit down with your kid and you watch them, your opinions might change about the game, and that can happen.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse.
Your opinion might change. Yep.
You might decide, okay, maybe I'm not a huge fan, but it's not that bad. And your situation becomes, okay.
Not for Grand Theft Auto, we are agreeing that's bad, but for whatever it is, we're just, whatever it is you're watching your kid. Why don't you pause the screen share, Peter, and let's get into some questions. Abby, do we have some questions? And then you can keep talking about this as well, Peter.
Yeah, we actually have one question from Dawn. I think you'll already kind of answered it, but she was asking if there's a way to verify app game ratings and research them. And y'all were talking about the videos online and stuff. I guess if you wanted to like clearly and concisely say this is what you should do, that might be helpful for her.
Yeah, let me begin the answer by saying there are really many categories of apps and games. If you want to know how to verify ratings for apps, that's a complicated thing we don't have the time to get into. But if you email me, Abby can put my email in the chat. We can look that up and link you to some things. I'm happy to do that. We can even put it in the comments to this Facebook post, but that is a separate category. What we're talking about today is video games. And Peter, I'm going to let you kind of answer
Sure.
that.
So video games are the games that you would play on your computer or your Xbox or your PlayStation or any
Nintendo,
type of,
maybe. Yeah.
yes, gaming console or computer is usually what people will define as video
A
games.
bigger screen,
Um,
usually.
right.
Yeah.
Mobile games, which are exclusively for your cell phone, are rated very differently. And I personally would hesitate to really do any type of mobile games. There's a couple, but they are just so full of ads and money grabs, and they aren't regulated very well. So I would hesitate to really let your kids play mobile games. They're designed to make you get addicted to them. They're designed to make you spend as much money as possible. They are not looking for you to have a good the goal of the mobile games is not to make you have a fun time. It's to data mine um, for most mobile games.
For most.
Um,
But
so
for the topic of today, I think go to the ESRB site, read the paragraph, if you'll go look back 5-10 minutes ago to the slide where Peter shared those 4 tips of watching gameplay. I mean, actually
right.
go to YouTube or even just to the online search bar and type in name of game. And what was it? What was the word?
Full walkthrough, no commentary.
Full walkthrough, no commentary. That is going to give you a 30-minute to 5-hour or more video. Don't watch the whole thing. We're not saying to watch the whole thing. We're just saying that go ahead and open up that 5-hour video or however long it is and click through it. Watch a few minutes here, a few minutes there. That after reading some comments. And guys, you got to lay down 15 minutes at minimum if you want to actually research a game.
Right.
And then, like Peter said, let's finish up what you were saying, Peter, about sitting down with your kid. And maybe it's so worst case scenario, it's Grand Theft Auto 5. Maybe it's something else, Doom Eternal. Maybe it's Batman Lego. I don't even know. Maybe it doesn't matter the type, but there's a game of some name that you don't know much about. And finish your thought on that, Peter, of how you might change your mind. What did you mean by that?
Sure. So if you sit down with your kid and they're playing a game so you've read the reviews, you've watched some gameplay, and you think, well, I don't really think my kids should be playing this, but there already are.
They already are, right?
So I don't want to say it's too late because it's not, but they've already been exposed to what's in the game. And it will only make it worse if you rip out or just take the game and never let them play again. That's not a good solution.
Not a good strategy. It might be that you end up banning the game. Let me be clear. I believe in parental authority. I am not saying you don't. You do have the authority to pull the plug. You can do it today. You can do it right away. But I think Peter's strategy is going to give you better long-term success. Guys, we're parents. We're in this for the long game. Okay. Right. And so like, if you discover they're playing a game that you don't think you like, do the research and then sit next to them and then
watch them play.
Yeah.
And you might change your mind. You might not. But the important thing is that you help your kid understand that you're not just banning the game because you don't like them or you don't think that they should, you sit down and you watch them and you come up with these questions and you ask them, right? And your kid starts to think about it and realize, okay, maybe this is not the best game for me, or maybe I shouldn't be doing these things. And that makes it a much healthier relationship and makes it much easier for the long game and helps them out, because then not only do they stop maybe playing that game that you don't like, now they think about those questions because they don't really know what to think about when they pick a game.
They're kids.
They're kids,
They're
right?
childish.
They don't really know that.
That's what kids are. They don't know. And so, like, to that point, I mean, if you do want to just pull the plug, I would honestly tell you wait at least 3 days, if not a week. And I know that might seem like forever, but to Peter's point, they've already been playing or seeing, right? And so even if you know the first time you view it, oh my goodness, we are pulling the plug. Just the fact that you don't pull it right away is going to make your kid respect the decision more, because from your kid's perspective, you thought about it. I don't know the situation. Maybe you should pull the plug. I mean, obviously, if it's, pornographic or what, I mean, but like, I'm just saying, then you can come to your kid and say, hey, you know what? I was really shocked when I saw this. And I thought maybe I'm missing something. But then I thought, I don't know everything. I don't play these video games myself. So I did some research. And then do you remember the other day, Johnny, I sat next to you and remember what we talked about? And you said this, and I said that. I thought about what you said. I still really think for our family, this game just doesn't fit our values. And here's why. I mean, don't you think that's might have a good chance, Peter, of working?
Absolutely,
Certainly
yes.
better than just pulling the plug and not listening. So, all right, it's the bottom of the hour. So do we have any other questions, Abby? I want to make sure everybody knows to come back tomorrow, because Ruth Grunstra, a parenting coach, is going to be with us at noon, and she's going to dive into this specific issue of how to deal with your kids when they want to push back on your screen time rules. She has a lot of experience, both herself as a mother and with coaching a lot of other parents. So what questions do we have, Abby?
It looks like that's it for right now.
All right, then we'll sign off. Any quick final comments, Peter, before we sign off for the day?
I think like I said, the most important thing is to just be involved and try and help make these decisions, especially if your kid's a little older in their teenage years.
Yeah.
Get them involved as well. If they're younger than 10, don't let them make decisions on their own.
Yeah.
Okay. That is when you really need to be the one to call almost all the shots. But then once they get into their teenage years, that's when you can become a little more co-decisioners, or make decisions as a
collaboratively.
Collaborative, right?
All right, fantastic. All right, we'll see you back soon. Thanks for joining us, guys.